All right, so recently I've been trying to figure out very hard what I'm gonna do with my life. It's like, I wanna do something that I enjoy, that feels meaningful and fulfilling and brings me happiness and that helps people, and trying to find my passion. But at the same time, I'm thinking, well, I don't really know what my passion is. I don't know if this is the thing that I wanna do for the next 20 years. I don't know to what extent medicine plays a role in this overall life plan. And so to try and untangle all of this stuff, there are 3 exercises that I've been finding really useful that I wanna share with you in this video. And let's get started with number 1, the Gravestone Technique. All right, so the Gravestone Technique is a little bit morbid, but the idea is that we wanna think about what do we want written on our gravestone. And so I thought about this quite a lot. And for me, sort of 3 things came to mind. If I imagine my future gravestone, what I'd want to be written on it. Number 1, good dad, or words to that effect. Number 2, good husband, or words to that effect. And number 3 was the one that most surprised me, which was something along the lines of inspirational teacher. And that phrase came to me, this inspirational teacher thing, and it kind of made me realize that a lot of the things I found most meaningful throughout my life have been when I've been teaching. So whether it's teaching students when I was in school, or teaching medical students at university, or even this YouTube channel, it's basically teaching at scale. I realized that, oh wow, that is a big part of what I find meaningful and fulfilling, and so being a teacher should maybe make up some aspect of my life plan. So that's one way of using the Gravestone Technique. The other way is to imagine what different people might say at your funeral and what you want them to say at your funeral. So for example, close friends, close family members, work colleagues, or random people on the street, or random people on the internet. And the idea behind that is that it gives us a different way of trying to figure out, like, what is the sort of person I want to be to different people? Like if we imagine what our friends would say at our funeral, it'll probably be based around our character, and about how nice and warm and friendly we were, and how accommodating we were, and how much of a good friend or family member we were. It wouldn't really be about our achievements or accolades. And especially as high achievers, often we can very easily fall into the trap of optimizing far too much for career and achievements and not enough on relationships and just being a generally nice person. This is something I struggle with a lot that I'm trying to remedy over time. And the third aspect of the Gravestone Technique is, what do you want to have been written on your Wikipedia page by the time you die? And the Wikipedia page question is more about achievements and accolades and what's the impact you want to have on the world overall, rather than just kind of the impact you want to have on your close friends and family members. And so in a way, these 3 different exercises I've been finding quite helpful, because I just never, ever, ever do any long-term planning until I started thinking about these. And I guess when it comes to finding stuff that's meaningful and fulfilling, that seems to vary a lot depending on who we are and our own kind of internal compass for what is meaningful. And I think when we think that long-term, okay, 60 years from now when I'm dead, what do I want my life to have looked like? I think that's particularly interesting. And there's a great book called How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen that I read a few months ago that really turned me on to this mode of long-term thinking. Because otherwise, if you're a busy person and you're doing a lot of stuff, it's just way too easy to get caught up in the rat race, climbing the greasy pole of subscriber counts and career accolades and all that stuff, and actually not think about what are the things that actually truly matter. Method number 2 for how I'm trying to figure out what to do with my life is called the Odyssey Plan. Now this is from a book called Designing Your Life. I don't know who it's by, but it's by these authors at Stanford Business School. And I first came across this, I think 2 years ago, when my friend Unjaded Jade put out a video about it on her YouTube channel, link in the video description. And again, because we all love a list of 3, with the Odyssey Plan, there are 3 things that we want to be thinking about. The first is that we want to ask ourselves, what would my life look like 5 years from now if I continued down exactly the same path that I'm currently on? And we want to write out in as much detail as we can what a day in our life would look like 5 years from now if we carry on down exactly the same path. The second aspect of the Odyssey Plan is to ask ourselves the same question: what would my life look like 5 years from now if I took an entirely different path? If the current path that I'm on was closed off to me, what's the alternative path that I might take, and what would my life look like then? And the third aspect of the Odyssey Plan is the same question: what's my life going to look like 5 years from now? Except this time, we're asking ourselves, what would it look like if money and what people think and societal expectations, if these things didn't matter at all? So those were the 3 components of the Odyssey Plan. And when I first discovered them from Unjaded Jade's video, part of me thought, oh, I can't be bothered to do this. It seems like too much effort. But then I actually took the time to, spending half an hour to write out my answers to each of these. I shared some of them in my email newsletter, linked in the video description, if you want to check out my oversharing about what my life would have looked like. But essentially I realized that the path that I was on, for the next 5 years, that was kind of depressing. It felt too easy almost. The path involved becoming a part-time resident or trainee in anesthetics or anesthesiology, which was the thing I was interested in at the time. I was still living in Cambridge, where I've been for the last like 9 years so far. And I was doing a bit of teaching, a bit of writing, the YouTube channel was going well. And it was all fine, and it was all very reasonable, and I could easily see how I might end up on this path. But there was a big part of me that was just like, oh, is this really what I want to do? And I kind of felt a bit depressed thinking that this was what my life would amount to 5 years from now. Because it just didn't seem challenging or interesting or uncomfortable enough. And as the folks at Yes Theory would say, I'm a big fan of seeking discomfort. And because this path felt so easy, I sort of thought, okay, no, this is not really the path that I want to be going down. And so if you're struggling to figure out what to do with your life, genuinely 100% recommend trying out the Odyssey Plan. I get that it's going to take some effort, but this is like a life plan, and it's obviously going to take effort to figure it out. But I can guarantee that if you write out this vision for what your life will look like 5 years from now under these 3 conditions, you will get some kind of clarity about how you want to move forward. And in fact, this is something that I try and repeat in my head every few months. And now that I'm saying this, I'm actually going to start writing it out properly every time I repeat the exercise, because there is something magical about writing something down rather than just doing it in our heads and hoping for the best. And finally, method number 3 for how I'm trying to figure out what to do with my life is called the Ideal Ordinary Week. I came across this from my friend Simon Severino, who's a business coach at Strategy Sprints, link below if you want to check it out. But essentially, the idea is that we fast forward our life a few years into the future, and I like thinking 2 years in the future, and we open up our calendars and we plot out what would our ideal ordinary week look like on our calendar. And it's like an ideal week because it's like what we would like it to look like, but it's an ordinary week. It's like a normal bog standard week in our lives. It's not a week when we're on holiday or doing something particularly novel. And so again, because I'm in an oversharing mood, this is what my ideal ordinary week looks like 2 years from now. So firstly, I'm gonna start off by waking up every morning at 8 o'clock, and I'll spend an hour doing my wake up and morning routine, whatever that looks like. Next, on most of the weekdays, I'm gonna do some sort of exercise first thing in the morning after I wake up. So that's tennis or gym or squash. On Mondays, I'm gonna have team meetings from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And then on Tuesdays, on Fridays, I'd be doing a full day in the emergency department from 10 o'clock to 6 p.m. Thursday and Sunday nights are going to be my World of Warcraft gaming raid nights with my guild. Wednesday night is going to be takeaway and board games night at my place. And I'm going to go out to a restaurant to have food with friends on a Monday night and on a Saturday brunch time. For most of the rest of the daytime, I'm going to have blocks of deep work or filming YouTube videos. And on Monday and Wednesday evenings, I'd be spending an hour practicing music or guitar or piano or singing of some sort. And on Saturday evenings, I'd be attending a group evening art class or something like that. Then we've got a bit of time for having lunch, a bit of time for cooking and having dinner, a few blocks of doing absolutely nothing to add some margin to my calendar, and the rest, usually in the evenings, would be my time for reading or learning something because, as you guys know, we're all fans of lifelong learning here on this channel. I'm going to talk more about exactly how this calendar, this ideal ordinary week fits into my life plan. But before I do so, if you want to kickstart your journey for lifelong learning and you don't want to wait 2 years for it, I'd highly recommend signing up to Brilliant, who are very kindly sponsoring this video. If you haven't heard, Brilliant is a fantastic platform with online courses on maths, science, and computer science. The courses are engaging and interactive, and they teach us things from a very first principled approach, which makes it so much more interesting and useful than the stuff that we learn in school. My personal favorite is the computer science series on Brilliant, and I've been working through those for the last over a year. And the nice thing about that is that I was torn between doing computer science and medicine when I applied to university. And I ended up going to med school, but I always had a part of me that was like, oh, I really want to understand this computer science stuff, the algorithms, the fundamentals of programming languages, that sort of thing. And so Brilliant's really been a fantastic introduction to all of that stuff. If that sums up your street and you're interested in lifelong learning as well, then head over to brilliant.org/Ali, and the first 200 people to go on that link will get 20% off the annual premium subscription. So thank you very much to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. And now let's talk about how this ideal ordinary week exercise can fit into our lives. And so for me, it doesn't take very long to do. It took me, I redid this exercise this morning in about 10 minutes and really thought to myself, okay, what do I actually want my ideal ordinary week to look like 2 years from now? And then the next question, which always comes once you've done this exercise, is thinking, what is stopping me from just having this as my ideal ordinary week now? What are the barriers that are in the way of me achieving this vision of my life? And for me, kind of since doing this exercise, I've actually kind of realized that I probably could get pretty close to my ideal ordinary week. Yes, there's a pandemic, so I'm not gonna hang out with friends very often, but most other things, I actually do have control over my own calendar. And so now, having done the exercise fairly recently, I'm now thinking about my day-to-day calendar and thinking, why is this not the the vision that I actually want for myself? What's stopping me from doing it? And why can't I just change my calendar to reflect this right now? So those were 3 different techniques that I found really helpful in trying to figure out what the hell to do with my life. I haven't got the answer, but every time I do these exercises, I feel I have a little bit more clarity about what I'm actually gonna do. If you like this video and you're interested in hearing more of my philosophical ramblings about meaning and fulfillment and happiness and stuff, you might like to check out this video over here, which is called Why I Left Medicine and Why I'm Going Back, and talks about my philosophy for like meaning and fulfillment and that sort of stuff. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.